This Runoff live stream 2026. Big state, not a lot of suspense anticipated, but here we are. Polls are closing in a few minutes, top of the hour. So, welcome aboard as we do another live stream. We've done one a week for the past few weeks, and we're doing another one. So, this is the big Cornyn Paxton showdown. And up until maybe a week ago, it was close. It was competitive. Now, Paxton has the coveted Trump endorsement, so that's kind of game set match. He's going to put himself over the top with that endorsement, and that's the end of an era in Texas for Cornyn. Um, Good evening, Brian Chavez or Chavez. You're the first one in, or the first one with any kind of comment. So here we go. So we're warming it up, and we'll go for a little while here. I mean, it's just one state, and there's other runoff action here in some of the House districts. There's also Attorney General. That's something to take a look at. But the markets are all pretty overwhelmingly one sided in every one of these runoffs. So unless there's a major upset, we're gonna just be kind of sitting here going through the motions. But this is it. This is the end of the Cornyn era, unless he does something nobody could have ever predicted. It's gonna be Paxton, and that's it. He's gonna go on to the general Cornyn. First elected 2002, or you have to double check on that. But 2020, 14, 08, 2002. That sounds right. So the Cornyn, the majority whip at one point, he's going to be done, and he's going out to AG Ken Paxton. So thanks for stopping in, tuning in, dropping by for another live stream. Again, I can't guarantee they're going to happen all the time. I know some of these, they're not going to happen probably in June, but I try to do them when I can, but it's hard to predict what's going to happen. Sometimes even a week out, but certainly 3 or 4 weeks out. We are back, absolutely back for another one. Yeah, well, if he got elected in two, he would have taken office at the beginning of three, but absolutely, that's a 25-year, 24-year run, and that's not nothing. But Cornyn also, he could probably use a retirement. He's in his 70s now. Paxton is not extremely younger than that, but a decade or so. So, but Cornyn, he just he wasn't consistent enough. He wasn't on the Trump train as much as the base wanted. That's the simple take. So polls have closed. Let's see what we get here. Primal B, hello. Thanks for stopping by, of course. It's going. It's going. We'll leave it at that. I think we are expecting the Paxton sweep. Not sure what that means exactly. That mean every county? I would assume Cornyn would win something. Here we go. Look at that, Paxton. He opens up with a 62-38. So we're underway, 3% in. Yeah, that endorsement did take a while. I kind of thought, well, it seemed like he was going to do Paxton all along. But then once Cornyn didn't do terrible in the primary, then maybe Cornyn had momentum. And I don't think Trump wanted to endorse somebody who was going to lose. It was competitive, so he sat on it. I thought he was going to do no endorsement or just endorse both of them. So he went for Paxton, which that's how he was kind of posturing himself prior to the primary. But we did get that Paxton endorsement pretty late in the game, but that should be enough to seal the deal here without any question. Why did he endorse Paxton? Well, probably he was probably conflicted because Paxton does have baggage and he'd be taking out an incumbent. But I guess there's just going to be more loyalty, I guess, to the Trump agenda with Paxton. That's how it seems. It's a simple way to put it. Cornyn has just been in there a while. He's got that establishment feel. Maybe Mitch McConnell light, something like that. And plus, Texas, not a deep red state, but kind of red enough where maybe Cornyn didn't want to go as hard on some of the Trump priorities. So of course that opens him up to a challenge from his right. And Paxton, you think there'd be somebody more electable than Paxton that could have filled that void. I thought Wesley Hunt was an ideal candidate, but not this time. Paxton. Um, you were two when Cornyn became U.S. Senator. Now you're 25. You're glad he's extremely likely to be out early next year. Born and raised in Texas. Sounds good. This is the primary for you then. No question about that. Okay. Paxton plus 10. Yeah, that's probably totally within reason. I would assume Cornyn would do a little bit better in the more populated areas, the cities. But it all depends. There's less Republicans in these blue counties. I don't know how well Cornyn's going to do in Travis, but I would assume he's going to do not terrible there. Paxton plus 5 plus 60. Okay. Cassidy got third place as an incumbent. Yeah. Kind of embarrassing there in Louisiana. I feel like Paxton would have won without the endorsement. Yeah, he certainly could have. The markets were showing it with an edge for Paxton, but it wasn't anything confident. So might have been much closer, maybe a low single point margin even. But now this should bump it up probably into double digits, maybe 10, 15 points. Who knows? Got some Tarrant County in here. Paxton is at 59%. So not enough information yet. Let's see here. Okay, we've got Attorney General, Texas Attorney General. Both sides actually have a runoff. And right now, Chip Roy trails Mays Middleton. So Chip Roy, kind of a big name, but he's looks like he's headed for defeat here. We've got Railroad Commissioner, If anybody cares about that. Okay, got a gain here for Cornyn. Looks like Dallas County, and yeah, Cornyn, small advantage there. Uh, Corn over. Oh, appointed before the start of the next Congress. Okay, the technicality there. I'm not sure how much Cornyn spent. I'm not sure how much anybody really spent. I know there's always just so much money coming in. Those aren't numbers I usually remember off the top of my head. But I think, yeah, Cornyn, of course, is going to be flush with cash. He's been in there a long time. He's got tons of connections, establishment connections. Usually, sitting senators have that war chest. So it's impressive here for Paxton to come in here and take down longtime incumbent in a big state. So we're going to see, I guess, yeah, after Bill Cassidy, back to back incumbent senators going down less than a week. Or maybe it's more than a week, less than 2 weeks. I'm glad Trump endorsed Paxton. There's a chance for Telrico versus Paxton matchup, which would open a chance for Texas to flip blue. And that's what people are going to be talking about. I've got that here on Polymarket. Here's the current situation: Republican 54, Dem 48. So a tilt edge there for the Republicans, according to the markets. I suspect it's not going to really get going. I mean, it's going to be going, but not really get going for a few months. People want to enjoy their summer, their spring, their summer, maybe some of their fall. They're going to see, they're going to, there's going to be debates. They're going to see what's going on and then pay attention probably October and maybe even November. So I'm not really going to put a lot of stock into what's going on now, but I've got to take a look at it. But I think Talrico, he's going to have vulnerabilities. That's mostly going to be culturally because Dems usually are going to have advantages economically. In it's a blue leaning year, it seems like. But there's cultural weaknesses. Is that going to be enough to outweigh the national environment? That's up for debate. Or is that going to be enough to outweigh Talrico being probably better on some economics and the economic sentiment of the country leaning against the party in the White House, as Paxton is up to 60% here. Two to one vote advantage here for Cornyn in Kennedy County with 50% in. A lot of counties here in the state of Texas, a lot of them very little population, but some do have substantial population or medium population. 17% in. I like how the vote is just trickling in consistently. That's a good sign. And again, we're about 15 minutes in here, so this is the only state today. So, welcome to the stream here to returning fans of the channel, maybe some new people, some lurkers. That's all good. Okay. Try to read most of the comments. I think there's, yeah, kind of a divide among people. I guess it's going to probably be a partisan divide. Democrats think, okay, this is the year. Tell Rico he could do this. And Republicans say, you kidding me? There's no chance this guy's going to do it. And, that's really where we're at. I mean, I think, I don't think that would really change in a different year or different candidates. We heard it in 18 with O'Rourke and Cruz. And even Allred and Cruz last time. But nobody's ever going to say, yeah, I think we could actually lose this one if you're on that side. But realistically, I mean, it's going to be tough here for the state to go blue. Not at all impossible, considering what the dynamics are. Okay. Susan Collins will lose the general election for Senate. She certainly could. It's not a guarantee. That's going to be interesting. Collins Platner. Platner has, perceived vulnerabilities as well. But I don't know how much the scariness of candidates' past statements from private conversations and personal life stuff. I don't know how much that's going to matter. I tell Rico comments he's made. A lot of that is out in the open, like on camera. That's his official positions in the last several years. It's a little different than Platner. Again, I don't remember exactly the dynamics with Platner, but I think a lot of his stuff was just private posts from a long time ago. And it's a little bit different, but it's still going to be interesting because Collins, she's probably who you want there in Maine. She's going to be peeling away some voters in that first district, some of the lighter blue voters, and she's got to get almost all the Trump base. She doesn't want to lose any super Trump fans because she's too moderate. But for that being a blue leaning state, Collins probably not a bad pick. But again, she's been in there forever. She's getting old. Platner, he's the new energy, but he's got his own issues. But that'll be a good race. Yeah, there is a Texas runoff market. I don't have it pulled up, but it should be here. 99.9 on both Poly Market and Kelshi. So there you go. About a fifth of the vote in here in the Texas runoff. Uh, is this more competitive than in 18? I don't know. I mean, 18 was that was clearly a blue year in the House and for governor. The Senate Republicans made a couple of gains actually, so that's a total success. But that was still kind of in the middle of the political realignment in states. Now polarization kind of at the max level, but I think a lot of it comes down to Hispanic voters seem to be the swing demographic, and with the economy looking kind of weak, then as we've seen in special elections, a lot of movement back toward the left. But then, of course, who knows what could happen? Ted Cruz in 18 had that narrow race, but then in 24 he came back and won it comfortably. Now it's only a couple of years later, so this is It's still a fairly red state, not super red. It's not Wyoming or anything, but it's not exactly Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, where, that has a clear purple state status. But anything could happen. I'm really open to a lot of different possibilities depending on what happens. But it's May. We've got a lot of time to go. You remember seeing Bob Casey spent 50 million on his Senate reelection while McCormick spent 26. McCormick still won. Yeah, I don't know if those numbers are right, but we'll say that they are. I mean, once you get a certain amount of money, the money isn't going to matter that much. Casey, again, super establishment, been in there a while. He's going to have all those connections. McCormick still raised a ton, even though he wasn't in office. And then it came down to who's running the better campaign and what is going on with the national environment and certain issues. So money will get you, it'll get your foot in the door, but it's not going to get you to the finish line. I mean, Hillary Clinton spent a ton more than Trump in 16. I don't remember the exact numbers, but money is not going to, there's certain races where you could have infinite money. You're not going to win them. Okay, so we got nothing in Travis County, but a clear advantage here for Paxton. This is kind of embarrassing for Cornyn. I mean, he could still narrow it for sure. 18 polls show Cruz with a small advantage. The polls at the end or the polls before the end? I think Cruz was ahead in, I think, almost every poll, even before and leading up to the election. But it was a couple that were, maybe he was tied or he was down by a tiny amount. I think you'll see undecideds who probably would break for Paxton, but they'll say they're not sure. So that could be something. 5% of the people, maybe, even close to the election. It could be Paxton up, 1 or 2 points. It could be 49-48 in the polling, but the undecideds end up breaking for Paxton and he wins 52-47, something like that. Or could go the other way. Uh, you disagree with Talrico, six genders. You're still voting for him anyway. Okay, that's a reasonable position to disagree with a candidate on certain aspects, but still support their overall platform or positions or vote against the other side. I think that happens on all sides a lot of the time. Voting for a candidate isn't necessarily an endorsement of everything they stand for or everything they've said. That'd be absurd. But yeah, he does have some weaknesses there. I do think what you point out that generally most people are going to be put off by those statements. And again, it wasn't in private. It wasn't 15 years ago. It's out in the open. Polymarket says Vance will be the Republican nominee in 28, and then Paxton will win the runoff. Okay, sounds fair. Gavin Newsom is leading for the Dem primary. Yeah, Newsom kind of been the front runner or close to it for a while. It's going to get really nuts after the midterms. That's when things are going to start to really get nuts. I guess maybe some people might sit around, wait till after the holidays, until the next Congress is sworn in. But that's when you're going to start seeing people declaring their intent to run for president. I feel like we're at a time and place where past statements don't have much of an effect. Totally different story than 12 years ago or so. Yeah, that's, every case will be different depending on what was said, how long ago it was said, and the context. I'd still think there's some nuance, there should be. But yeah, if you're going to go back in time really far and pull out something in private and a unclear context, that should be pretty flimsy. I know there was a time, yeah, about 5 years ago where we were hearing about that a lot. Where somebody made a comment 10 or 20 years ago, and that's supposed to have tons of weight in the present. I think in the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, that was something where they went way, way back to litigate stuff that had happened a long time ago, accusations. That's tough to do. And I know whenever it's whenever it's the somebody's preferable candidate, they can easily rationalize and say, "Come on, that doesn't matter. That was so long ago." And then, of course, when it's the other side, they're going to say, "This totally matters. We gotta go after him at all costs." Democrats' Senate majority is dependent on quite a few states that have become more red. Well, they got a shot in Ohio, sh- outside shot in Texas, maybe Iowa, Alaska, North Carolina looks more and more almost like a gimme for the Dems. That's a lock, basically. Assuming they hold Georgia, which seems also like a lock almost. But they got to worry about Michigan and keep their eye on Maine. I wouldn't put Nebraska into that mix. I just wouldn't think Pete Ricketts is in enough danger, but we'll see what happens. Uh, Montana, that's another state to don't completely ignore. Yeah, West Virginia, Ohio. Yeah, the whole map was different. I mean, I've covered so many videos, so many different topics on Senate, governor over the past 10 or 20 years, different streaks. And the last time each side won, hard to imagine 10 or 20 years ago. And hey, in another 10 or 20 years, we might look back right now and think, how did this happen? Not in every state, but in maybe a handful of them. A lot of political realignments. When is Hispanic voter trend projected to go red? I think that might depend on the metrics and the source. I'm not sure about that. Might be easier for Republicans to win presidential elections in 2030s because red states predicted to take electoral votes away from blue states. Yeah, blue states are going to be losing some votes in a few years, but that's not a guarantee. Of course, that would just give you like a one state buffer. That's not going to be enough if you're going to lose all the swing states or there's any kind of a wave. But in a close election, yeah, Republicans, they're going to be liking that little bit of help in the electoral college. And that's assuming everything stays the same. This house size stays the same, and we're still using the electoral college. I mean, there's a lot of ifs here, but that would be the status quo. And yeah, people are generally leaving blue states. So people they say people vote with their feet, and if they're going to red states, it doesn't really look good on on some of the government in the blue states. That's a big thing, probably one of the biggest things against Gavin Newsom. If he thinks he's done a good job or even a decent job or an average job, why is everybody getting out of there? It just kind of puts it all out there. There's a million other things beneath the surface, but the optics of that are kind of bad because for so many decades, California was gaining population and then it kind of flipped. Now, you don't, it'd be unfair just to blame somebody for all of it, like Newsom, but again, it's the optics. When you're in there, it's hard to run on that. Cornyn is done. Yep. It certainly looks like it. We'll see if he wins Dallas County. Let's take a look at some of these down ballot races now. Christian Menifee, who's already in there, has been drawn into this district with Al Green. And Al Green, certainly notable. Well, looks like this is 95% in, and that's the end of it. So a complete blowout here. Menifee is going to end the career of Al Green. How about this? Colin Allred looking for the comeback against incumbent Julie Johnson. And these districts, yeah, not pretty at all. This is, I mean, this sucks. What can you say? But that's what happens when you're going for any political advantage. But Allred is looking to come back here. He had that Senate run, and I kind of got embarrassed to Ted Cruz. Okay, we've got the 35th district here. And the summary here is Abbott has endorsed a different candidate here than Trump. De La Cruz is backed by Trump and brother of Monica De La Cruz, who's already serving in the U.S. House. So this is a close one, but John Lujan has the advantage here. So we'll come back to that. Actually, let's see if the market has changed at all. Not really. De La Cruz, 93% chance. There's also the Dems have a runoff in this race too, but it's going to be red leaning. And this was this controversial race here. Maureen Galindo made some statements. Dems kind of backed away from her. So looks like Johnny Garcia should have that one in the bag. This one is over here in the 9th for the Republicans. Alex Miller defeats Briscoe Kane. That's a that goes to show you the powerful name doesn't guarantee you anything. Briscoe Kane sounds like that guy could be winning some races, but not at all. He's getting 31%. Here's Railroad Commissioner incumbent Jim Wright. I'm not really familiar with the dynamics of this race, but Beau French is in the lead here. AG for the Dems, Nathan Johnson, pretty comfortable lead here. And Mays Middleton, a 15-point advantage here over Chip Roy. Still waiting on some Travis County. A lot of votes there. Got nothing in El Paso. Okay. Illinois will have two women as senators, most likely in Colorado. And Minnesota, there'll be two new senators. Since Bennett and Klobuchar are probably the next governors. Okay. Yeah, a couple of senators trying to go back into state politics. Right. Agree with Talrico's other views. No more Al Green. Republicans might be funding Galindo. Yeah, I think I heard that too. And yeah, that's what's happening nowadays. Both sides want to prop up the more controversial, theoretically weaker candidate for the general election. Oh, El Paso doesn't close till 9. Gotcha. Okay. So we're more than half of the vote in. So this could be, well, we expected it to be kind of an early night, but last week we did about a 5 hour stream, something like that. This one not going to be that long at all because one state, one time zone makes it super easy. Rhinos tanked redistricting in South Carolina, activist judge Alabama. Nice to see Cornyn losing. Yeah, that South Carolina map looks like it's going to stay, and possibly Alabama too. So yeah, Cornyn is he's a fixture in Texas politics, and he's done. It hasn't been called yet though here on New York Times. So there's still something else going on here. I guess they probably want to wait for the rest of the state to close and then call it. Probably get something here out of Travis. Paxton and Harris County is up by a 2-1 advantage here. Let's see if we've got some updates here. Supporters of Colin Albright are trickling into his watch party. All right. Tallarico is working to unify Democrats. I don't even know how challenging that's going to be. I mean, Dems mostly, I would think, would say, hey, we'll take anybody if we could flip the state. Okay, Cornyn is trailing significantly as early vote continues to be reported throughout the state. Okay. Oh, that's what we've got here. Okay. Al Green officially lost. Yeah, if I was going to call it, I would project here Ken Paxton is the next nominee. I would call that pretty easily. And what's going on here? Cornyn just dominating one county. Not sure what that's all about. The Supreme Court will let Alabama keep the map. How long is that going to take for them to make a ruling? That's what I'm not sure. Is that going to be coming right up, or could that take a little while? I'm not sure what they're going to do. Because, I mean, they tried to change it late in the game. They might make them just say, hey, just wait till next time. But yeah, you never know. Anything could happen. Uh, Sucks Al Green lost. Yeah, Al Green, that wasn't even close, really. 68-31. And then you're glad Al Green lost. Okay, a lot of different takes here. That's what it's all about. Uh, Virginia was blocked by Virginia Supreme Court to use the new map that citizens literally voted for. Yeah, that whole thing is it's interesting, but yeah, it got thrown out on a kind of a procedural technicality. Okay, Julie Johnson. Allred falsely accused Telrico of anti-black racism. I think I heard about that. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, the racial dynamics sometimes things get blown way out of proportion. Some Cornyn voters will sit out the general election, but probably not enough to flip the Telrico. Yeah, I generally agree with that. And also in exchange, how many disaffected Republicans might come out for Paxton because they want somebody to fire him up, and Cornyn wasn't doing that. Kind of like Trump getting out a little bit extra, 1, 2, 3% of the vote for people who just don't participate. Maybe he could gain some of that, but yeah, I would think a few more moderate suburban voters would probably sit home or maybe go for Talrico, but who knows how this race is going to look in a few months. People are just starting to test the waters, and we'll see how it goes. Talrico, he's got, again, past statements. There was a recent ad of him against him by one of the PACs, and it doesn't look good for Talrico. Now, Paxton has baggage. There's no question. But if the image, if the thing about Paxton is, I don't think anybody thinks his image is squeaky clean at all. I think it looks damaged. But for Talrico, he had this kind of semi squeaky clean image. But some of this cultural stuff just isn't going to probably sit well with the conservative or moderate voters on some of those statements that he's made. Let's see. Allred or Johnson more progressive? I'm not sure. I never thought Allred was supposed to be progressive at all, so I would just default to the other person. Only the politicians voted to redistrict in Texas and Missouri. Voters didn't get a say. Yeah, the process is it's different in every state. I mean, that's not going to be pretty or clean. There's all these different court challenges. It all depends on what judges you get and what happens at this time or that time. So there's always going to be these haphazard results in court cases. No one had a say on Kamala. Yeah, that's another relevant point. No primary there. Well, they did in 2020, and she dropped out pretty early. Is Talrico stronger or weaker than O'Rourke? Well, if you try to not consider the national environment, just if they both ran in the same environment and during the same year, let's just say that if they both ran in 18 or this year, I think it's close, if, as frequently as it is. Depends how you want to look at it, but I think O'Rourke comes off as somebody more of a fighter, a little bit more seasoned, and a little bit more true to his convictions. Of course, he's made some statements too that didn't play well about guns or whatever in the state. But Talrico doesn't come off as firing up too many people. And in that sense, I think it's in a similar environment where Dems are looking to get something going. I think O'Rourke is a little bit more animating for voters. Talrico is kind of just hanging back and there's not as much energy there. Now, that's not totally a deciding factor, but in terms of motivating voters at the base, I think O'Rourke is better at that. Now, maybe Talrico peels away more middle centrist voters, and that's his strength. But it really depends on how you want to look at it. But I think we have yet to see about Talrico. Let's see what he does. But I know he's kind of the hope for Dems, but we've seen that in a lot of states and things don't pan out. So we'll see what happens. Okay, Paxton wins by two. He could win by two. Absolutely. He could win by more than two. Talrico is stronger than O'Rourke. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to gauge it in an even neutral environment or in the same environment because 18 was kind of different, even though it was a blue leaning year. Okay. Most likely Republicans will win in Maine, second in the House, and then Nebraska's second will go to the Dems. Yeah, that is fairly likely. A lot of the Paxton can't win was Cornyn and Thune. Yeah, I guess Cornyn and Thune. I mean, those guys usually they're going to want to keep the establishment intact. They're not going to want to go against somebody who they've worked with for decades. That's just true pretty much across the board. It'd be pretty rare to see opposition to an incumbent senator. It could happen in a case like Fetterman because he's probably even angering his own side, who the elected officials on his own side, and voters are going to want to they're going to want to come back and probably primary Fetterman if he even runs again as a Democrat. Okay, a lot of Pritzker talk here. Um, you would vote for Julie Johnson because of what happened with Talrico and Allred in 25. Yep, I think mentioned that earlier. You think O'Rourke was a better candidate for 18 if Talrico was better for the modern era? All right, I guess that's a fair way to look at it. But it's what 8 years apart, so it's not like totally different eras. But I guess a lot has happened in those 8 years. Paxton and Talrico are weak people. Yeah, it would be everybody has these vulnerabilities usually. I think Talrico would look like he's smooth sailing if he didn't have, I guess, the past cultural statements that we've been seeing. If he was just in the middle or even on the right on cultural stuff, I think that would be a pretty good for Talrico because this is kind of an economic type of environment, and that would help out any Democrat unless things change dramatically over the next 5 months. But so Talrico, he could run on economic issues and how expensive things are. But if you go beyond that, Paxton is going to have he's going to have opportunities. That's assuming Paxton's own baggage doesn't drag him so far down. Paxton is far weaker than Talrico. It's really hard to compare the two, I think, because there's just so many differences. Paxton's way older. He's won statewide. He's got a ton of experience, and he's got personal baggage. Talrico is completely untested. Yeah, he did win in the legislature, but beyond that, there's a lot of unknowns. And I think a lot of the strength of Talrico appears to just mostly be the wind at the back of the Dems in general because of the national environment. That's what I think. And plus, Talrico, he doesn't come off as, I guess, a jerk, we'll say. So Paxton is going to come off as more of the guy going to shake it up, I guess, even though it's the same party. And yeah, Paxton, he's run a lot of races. He's been through that impeachment. He knows all the stuff they're going to come at him with. There's probably going to be new things. But Talrico, I don't think he's used to getting a ton of the national heat or the statewide heat on him. That's something he has to deal with. And the more stuff that's come out recently, again, who knows what could happen. But some of that stuff that we've seen on the cultural or social side, I think that's not going to help them. And sometimes that stuff matters a lot. Economics are important, but people want to have some culture relatability as well. Again, people are hurting in the wallets. That could just be the whole race. Who knows? Um, okay, yeah, a lot of Pritzker stuff going on here, but that's good. Talrico isn't perfect, but I do think he's way stronger of a candidate than Paxton. It's a matter of whether or not Texas red fundamentals hold or not. Yeah, I thought Talrico was a little bit stronger until, yeah, until again, people started digging up stuff. So he kind of peaked around the time he won the primary or something like that. But then people didn't really shine a light on him. They're probably saving some of the stuff for the general. And then it comes out. All right, let's see what we've got here. Let's go through some of these again. Here's the AG race. Looks like a pretty easy win for Mays Middleton, although has not been called yet. Again, I think maybe they're going to wait for El Paso. Nathan Johnson, big lead here for the Dems. Railroad Commissioner, the incumbent there, still trailing pretty bad, relatively speaking. 6-7%. Ninth district is called here. Alex Mueller, Christian Menifee, defeats Al Green and Colin Allred leading Julie Johnson. Oh, and this is pretty close here. John Lujan, 3 point lead over Carlos De La Cruz. And Johnny Garcia in the lead on the Dem side. All right, let's see what updates we've got. Yeah, Cornyn, age 74, he could just retire, right? He had a good career for sure. And is it just me, or has Cornyn looked 74 for about the last 20 years since he got into office? Paxton, 63, so yeah, not way younger. Okay, the results look pretty grim for John Cornyn. Crypto industry strategy is here. Okay, so interesting dynamics with crypto, but still waiting on some Travis County. 54% in. Uh, did you see the video clip Paxton rally where he had supporters at a toxic masculinity, negative masculinity moment? I, I just saw that actually right before I got on the stream. I did see that. It was like 20. I don't know how long it was. I saw something that was like maybe 30 seconds. I don't know if there was like a longer version, but yeah, he's spitballing the names. That's, I guess the base kind of likes that stuff. I don't know how much low T Talarico. That to me doesn't really do a lot. Certainly in a general election, that's just too not relatable. I think for an average voter, they're not going to really know what they're talking about, and they're not even really going to care. I think the rest of the stuff Paxton has to go on is going to be better. Some of these old clips of Talarico. Yeah, faith from a progressive perspective. I don't know how that's going to play, but that's, I guess, a accurate way to put it. Okay. Yeah, there is probably a big debate there about how progressive can you be and still be super religious, I guess, if that's the right way to put it. Cornyn looks like Biden. Let's go back to that. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's just a little. Let's say you had the white hair and yeah, a little bit, not a ton. I'm gonna say. Uh, you wish there weren't sore loser laws in Texas, so Paxton or Cornyn could run a spite independent campaign. Yeah, I've done a community poll on sore loser laws last year, and I don't think people are really super familiar with them. But yeah, if you lose in the primary, can you come back in the general, do an independent thing? I think most people don't want that. I can't remember what the results were. Travis County has to create some fake votes for Cornyn. Yeah, it's got to be narrower than Hayes and Williamson. Is Cornyn going to lead in Travis? That's the question. You think race for the White House is your favorite pollster? They, you mean the aggregate of the polls, or are they actually commissioning their own polls? Okay, forecasting website. I should have read the next line. Yeah, yeah, I do use them sometimes. Probably be checking them out more as we get into polling season. 5:38. Yeah, that's those are the days, huh? What do you think of Vote Hub's forecast? This this is fine. This is good. It has the market integrated, unless you're talking about something else. What's the most accurate forecasting website? I don't know anymore, really. The aggregate sites. Oh, Nate Silver has his Silver Bullet or Silver Bulletin Substack. I think he's still kind of doing the 538 stuff. I mean, I like Real Clear Politics. I just was used to them for a long time. Some of these other newer ones are good, but they're not as established. And Atlas Intel was good. Yeah, they had some misses though in 25. And that's what happens. A pollster might be right 1 year, possibly two, but if can they sustain it seriously? That's tough. And we'll see who's gonna be the accurate pollster this time. But Atlas Intel, yeah, they built up their reputation. You voted for Nathan Johnson, Vicky Goodwin, and East Parker, both the Texas primary and Dem Texas runoffs. Okay. There's Nathan Johnson. I'm not sure where the East Parker race is, but let's see. Oh, look at this. This flipped. Carlos De La Cruz has taken the lead. Is that reflected here in the market? Oh, I guess it's been De La Cruz the whole time. So that's the Trump-backed candidate, brother of Monica De La Cruz, already in the House. So that's kind of interesting. Here we go. Travis County, Cornyn 54, Paxton 46. There it is. It is going to be another, probably a win in another county, significant county for Cornyn. You don't like the market integration, really? Well, it's either without the integration, I got to keep pulling up the sites separately and typing in races, having a bunch of tabs open. This kind of cuts it down. Just have the race and the market into one. And it's called for Paxton. There you go. You saw it here. Right at the top of the hour. Paxton is possibly going to be the next senator from Texas. If he's not, then this is going to be a fantastic wave year for the Dems, and they're going to really tear it up. Vote Hub forecast for Senate, House, and Governor similar to former 538. Is Menifee or Green more woke? I bet. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, the pollster that made Harris win Iowa by 3. Yeah, and Selzer. Yeah, Selzer and Co. She retired, but yeah, terrible poll from a good pollster otherwise. One of the worst polls, really, of all time, I think, considering the reputation. Yeah, Austin just dropped. Gotcha. Shadow Legend, hello. Good to see you, everybody in here. We got a nice runoff here. Texas style. It's a big state, big runoff, but not a lot of surprises, really zero surprises, I guess, according to the markets. The Dems crossed over in Austin, probably. Okay, I'm not sure if they do that in a runoff if they did not vote in the Republican first round of the primary. I would think that can't be done, but let me see here. Let's go back onto this. National Libertarian Council voted to disown the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. I did not see that, I don't think. What's that about? And out of all the states to be libertarian, I would think New Hampshire is one of the more libertarian states. So I don't know what happened there. Paxton won. Okay. You read the mayors of the biggest cities in the U.S. are becoming the new blue wall. Okay. Well, what does that mean, though? I mean, the blue wall is really only used in the context of for voting for president, getting the electoral votes. So, is it still applying? Just saying that those blue cities are going to be enough to keep those states blue for president? Okay, that's how I'm interpreting it, but we'll see. And given it's the new hour here, I'm going to take a quick 1 minute break. Be back in just a minute. Okay, so here we are in hour 2 of this stream, and we've already got possibly every question answered. So I would assume we're gonna have it all done here within the next hour. We do have El Paso in here now, where Ken Paxton has a similar margin here to the statewide results. So in South Texas, Paxton, not really. Maybe he's doing slightly worse by a couple of points, but it's kind of inconsistent. In the rural counties, some of these Paxton doing better. Most of them he's doing slightly better. Some of them he's doing decently better, but again, not a ton of votes here. Okay. Why did the, yeah, Libertarian Party of New Hampshire promptly endorsed Trump after. I'll have to take a look at that. I think later on we'll see what's going on there. Despite how red Texas has voted 21st century, Talrico win would be preferable and very exciting, especially how bad you can't stand Texas being dominated by GOP. Yeah, I know. I think voters in Texas, California, there's, Republicans in California, they haven't had any power in a long time there. Dems in Texas, same thing. And maybe both of them, maybe they should swap states or something. I don't know. But yeah, a lot of big states have complete dominance, or even the small states. But I guess over the past 20 years, most states have voted for the other side on a significant race at least once. But that's going to be further and further back now. I mean, you've had states like New York. I mean, they had Pataki in there for 3 terms. But it has been more than 20 years since he got elected. California had Schwarzenegger. But yeah, Florida, been a while since a Dem there. And for governor, but they have had the Senate. They had Bill Nelson. So that's significant. But Texas, yeah, nothing really. It's been pretty red. I mean, you've had a Democrat elected in redder states, Louisiana, Arkansas, but not in Texas. Cornyn did get demolished here pretty bad. It's embarrassing, really. I mean, that Trump endorsement, of course, is the factor. Without it, certainly way closer, but probably still a Paxton win. Texas Panhandle totally flipped from Cornyn to Paxton. Okay, and wait, what's going on here still? Is this is this a tabulation error? This has to be. I'll take your word for it that Cornyn did better in the Panhandle in the first round. Can't wait for Talrico to lose. I mean, he could lose, but I mean, I'm going to be the first one to say that anything could happen. Certainly in a race that's not a total blowout. It's going to be where everybody gets excited when they see a poll come out that shows their side in the lead. Or I guess Talrico would be excited to see him even down by one or two. But remember Larry Hogan, he was leading some of the polls when he got into the race for Senate a couple of years ago. But that was because it was months out. Once it got closer, everything changed. Hogan, he trailed. Talrico's appeal with Latinos, yeah, I don't know. That's just, I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think the economic stuff, again, is just going to help out the party not in the White House across the board. So I think that's the best thing Talrico has going is the gas prices and affordability, housing, and all that. Now, maybe a downside for him is he probably was defending it a couple of years ago when Biden was in there, saying, "Oh no, 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 don't pay any attention to how bad the economy feels. Take a look at these numbers." And voters said, "We're not buying that," and they booted out the Dems. So it's hard to come right back and say, "Oh, now the economy's bad," but when you were saying it was not bad, when your side was just in there, that's the hypocrisy of politicians. It's totally expected. Does Paxton have both a lazy eye? I think he had. I heard. I think it was a couple, multiple accidents or something in his life. Something with his eye. I'd have to get the details on it, but something accident related, I think, is the answer to that. But don't quote me on that. Uh, Panola County, that's right here. Had the error for Hunt. I don't even remember that, but okay, I guess this county has to get it together because this looks like it should be flipped. See anything else coming in here? 64 in Travis, and let's see. Okay. Oh, 95%. That's what we want to see. CNN says the world is watching, voters are choosing, and anything is possible down to the last vote. Uh, yeah, I think they're going like totally generic just to describe conceptually an election. But if you look, I go down one level at least. Of course, if it's going to be a total blowout or it's an extremely lopsided race or state, then I'm not going to say anything could happen. I'm going to say this is almost a guarantee, if not a guarantee, for one side or the other. CNN is streaming this on YouTube. It'd be nice if they were streaming this channel, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, the runoff. Let's see what actually is going on in here. 14 people. Well, I don't know how we got to over 200 over a year ago when we did a stream. I don't know how that happened. There's no way to predict it. But if you've been around for the other streams, you've heard me discuss some of the disappointment of the channel momentum over the past year and a half. Midterms. Okay. Gotcha. Well, anything else? Let's go through it again. Christian Menifee ends the career of Al Green. Colin Allred is favored here against Julie Johnson. Carlos de la Cruz. He's the Trump endorsed candidate. Mays Middleton is the nominee for Attorney General, defeating Chip Roy by double digits. Going to face Nathan Johnson. That'd be a reach target, I would assume, for the Dems. But hey, if it's a total blue wave, they could be picking up crazy seats. Still waiting on this one. Railroad Commissioner. And the 9th is done. 18th is done. The 33rd is done. And it's called for Johnny Garcia, also in the 35th. Oh, here we go. Vicky Goodwin. This is the Dem side for lieutenant governor. Okay. That should be the Dan Patrick matchup. What's going to happen after the Greg Abbott era? Because Greg Abbott 4 terms, that's going to be that could be 16 years. He could go again. He could go 5 terms. He could start breaking records, and voters aren't tired of him yet. I bet in some sense he probably wishes Harris was in the White House because that would give him a bigger cushion, and that would mean this seat is for the Senate not really going to be probably in play for the Dems. Every political channel you watch seems to struggle heavily outside of general election season. Well, my channel actually started sinking before the general election last time, which was really astounding. I even the days I put up multiple videos didn't do anything. There's something else going on there. And again, I'm fine with a slowdown, but I'm not fine with a complete stopping and reversal because that didn't happen after the 22 midterms. I didn't sink a ton. So I don't know why it would happen before and especially after the 24 election. It could go up a little, but for it to totally stop, grind to a halt. I mean, it's unsustainable, really. Here we go. Still Paxton 48 or 54 for the Republicans, 48 for the Dems, and that Senate race, according to the market. And this is a dismal showing here for Cornyn. I mean, voters backed him 4 other times, but not this time. Bernie Sanders at 28. Bernie, yeah, there's a guy who's older, but he doesn't seem like he's that old. He seems like he's been the same age for a while too. Who's going to replace Bernie in the Senate? Yeah, because Vermont has Peter Welch and Bernie Sanders are both super old. And then you're down to the U.S. House, one district at large. And I think that's Becca Balint. She'd probably be top of the list. Maybe you get Phil Scott. How about that? I think that was asked before if it was Phil Scott against Bernie Sanders, what would happen for the Senate? Well, I think Bernie would still win that because that's a federal office. But what if it was, how about Bernie running for governor against Phil Scott? I mean, I mean, Phil Scott seems unbeatable, even against Howard Dean. And as far as I know, Phil Scott is still not declared he's going to run again. But at this point, I mean, it's getting a little late to decide. He could hang it up, but I guess people think he is going to run again. Okay. So what else are we waiting on here? Well, next week is actually a lot more action. Next week is California and some other states, but that's California is probably the biggest prize. I'm gonna try to do a stream. I can't guarantee it. I know I'm gonna miss. I would guess at least 1 or 2 weeks in June, but we'll see what happens. Let's see. 9 updates. Oh, let's go down here. Paxton has won, ousting 4-term incumbent John Cornyn. Cornyn's loss is going to exacerbate tensions between Senate Republicans and Trump. He was a popular colleague and prolific fundraiser. Yeah, I think the Dems like this, but a lot of the base for the Dems, they want to see the same thing happen for some of these longtime establishment senators for the Dem side. They want to see them get primaried out. Uh, Talrico wasted no time courting John Cornyn supporters, as he'll need to pry away both independents and some disaffected Republicans to have a chance. Yep. I want to thank Senator Cornyn for his years representing our state. Is he gonna eat that up, or is he gonna know that that's completely superficial? Tonight we've come up short. Well, that depends how you look at it. Short usually implies, you know, at least a single point margin. And look at these shifts so far. Everything to the right, most of it big time. Why don't two California Republican candidates urge their voters to split votes between them to ensure a red win? Well, a couple of things. I think the hardest thing would be, how do you actually coordinate that? I mean, how do you how do you say, okay, voters, let's make sure we have half of you vote for this person and half for that person. I don't know how you really go. That's a weird thing to actually coordinate. And aside from that, there's undecideds and there's just not a ton of Republican votes out there. So if you do also split it, you run the risk of possibly being shut out. If the two Dems, Becerra, Steyer, get each 25% of the vote, and you get Bianco and Hilton getting 20% each, then you're going to be shut out. It's very risky, and I think it's just tough to coordinate, especially, yeah, when you're the minority political party. Okay. So most of this is wrapped up, but a couple of outstanding races still. Dallas, I think, was one of the first counties on the map, but they haven't gotten nearly enough votes in yet to call this race. Okay. Anyone below this city, vote for me. Anyone above, vote for him. Yeah, I mean, California is probably, yeah, 40% red, but I think, actually having that take place is just, that's a lot of just having faith in everybody doing something like that. I think that's just actually too difficult to put into effect because I think a lot of people are going to think, well, wait a minute, I don't want to not, I don't want to vote for that person, but I should vote for this person because it could help me in the general election. I think there's just so many things that would prevent that from going smoothly because some voters actually don't want the other candidate. Now, a lot of Republicans would probably take either Republican, but in a primary, they probably might have a preference, enough of them, 5, 10, 15%. And to get everybody on board where people are actually aware of an actual plan where everybody here vote for this person, everybody vote for this person if you're in this other area. I think that just actually having that happen in reality and effect, I think it's just too much. And you're also having to have people just trust it all works out when they might have other motivations for supporting a different candidate. And then yeah, the Dems, who knows what they could do if they got so many candidates. It it I guess trying to game the system, sometimes it can work depending on what it is, but that I think is just too big of an effort to actually pull off. Okay, so everybody doing pretty well here on this runoff, another primary stream. Hopefully everybody's having a nice night here as we have more coverage. And today it's the Texas runoff, and it's Ken Paxton against James Tallarico in a heated, brutal showdown for control of the U.S. Senate in November. Dems look to be pulling off a major upset in this red state, but has shades of purple in it. It'd be decades in the making if Dems are able to pull it off here. And there's no Senate election next time in this state in 28. So a little bit of breathing room if either side wins. And then it'd be Cruz back up for re-election in 30. And that's a million years away, metaphorically, in politics. Yeah, I just trying to coordinate something like that in actuality, I don't think it's feasible. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's completely doable. But I mean, I would think if it were even close to doable, you'd be hearing about it. But yeah, I mean, hey, Republicans likely to lose that race, of course, if it's one of them in the general. But it's not 100%. It's not even like 99%. I'd say it's like 90%, which is very overwhelming. But, a lot could happen in theory. And maybe it's even higher than 90 because of the national environment. But even in a red leaning year, I would still say it's probably still 80% for the Dems. But hey, that's 80%. That sounds like a lot, but if you haven't won in a long time, 80% is not terrible. Okay, still got vote trickling in here. I would assume this is a tabulation error. Uh, yeah, it's a blowout here too for Al Green. Okay. I think there was. Okay, we're still waiting on this. Texas Railroad Commissioner, Republican side. Less than a 5 point advantage here for Beau French, who's challenging the incumbent Jim Wright. And this race still, Colin Allred has a 100%. 100. That's hasn't hasn't been called yet here. And this race also very similar margin here. Still not called. And yeah, this is this new map in Texas. Republicans probably going to have a few seats they're gaining, but they might not flip as many as they wanted. I don't know if they're going to be able to take out Henry Cuellar or Vicente Gonzalez. Okay. So most of this is in here. We're over an hour and a half. I don't know how much longer we're going to go. I mean, this is kind of all of it. It's a lot easier than last week. 5 hours, 6 states, 4 different time zones. Uh, Vote Hub. Okay, and let's see. The Railroad Commission race. Extremely racist. Okay. Does it say that on here? Are you on this or you're on the other the other Vote Hub? Okay. Let's see. We've got 15 viewers and any lurkers out there. It's good to have you in here anyway. Nothing wrong with lurking. It's all about getting the results. And Cornyn is actually leading a couple of counties, at least two. This could be a tabulation error as well, but it's only 8 votes total. Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to look up what some of the stuff, what some of the comments were. But again, I don't know how much do comments like that matter anymore? How much does the mudslinging matter? I don't know. I think a lot of people might just come down to this where they're going to stand on policy or voting against the other policy. It's tough. And some of these counties, again, zero in. I never really can understand why some counties just can't do anything after an hour and a half. And probably not a lot of precincts here. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, this is just going to be kind of a community hangout then for a little bit because we got nothing else. So, what else is there to take a look at? I mean, we could talk about the general election forever. Paxton Talarico. I mean, how many people even heard of Talarico a year ago? Probably not many. But I would rate the race as well. I'm gonna have to put out probably a new prediction, but I mean, it would have to be lean Republican to start out. I think that's what I had it at anyway. But yeah, it's going to be a closer with Paxton, I would think, by 2 or 3 points at least. But again, Talrico doesn't necessarily have the squeaky clean electable image. If we've seen some of the past statements he's made on certain social or cultural issues, it's not going to help his cause. Now he's got to deal with trying to walk back those comments. That never really looks appealing. Because it wasn't 10 years ago. And it wasn't some private conversation. It was like not super long ago. And it was on camera. Cornyn or Paxton, yeah, he's got to hope Cornyn backs him and he gets 99% of those Cornyn voters. But Paxton got impeached. He's got messy personal issues as well. But hey, he's in there statewide. People kind of know who he is at least. He's got that experience. That could be something. You're shocked by the scale of this landslide. Yeah, it's more than I expected. I was thinking maybe 10, 15, maybe up to 20, but I mean, this is above that for sure. Well, here's the thing. I don't actually do toss ups. I don't know if I've ever actually put out a toss up. I understand toss up as a category, but when I'm making a map, I think it's kind of a cop out. I think people want to actually see a call. So I would not do a toss up at all, but I would still do lean Republican until further notice, unless I see consistent momentum and Paxton has nothing going on in the polls. But that's going to have to be over a little while. I mean, I think it's an uphill climb here because Cruz against O'Rourke in 18. I mean, Cruz I thought was unlikable. I still think he's unlikable. I guess it doesn't matter. He clearly won over Allred, who Allred I would think seems more likable in the sense. But yeah, Cruz still won in 18. Close race, somewhere around 3 points, I think. But there was no guarantee. And then, of course, Dems thought they had momentum. They thought, well, if it's 3 points now against Cruz, then in 20, maybe this state could flip for president. Well, that didn't happen. And then, how about in 24 again against Cruz? Didn't happen. It went the other way. So now we're back to kind of the 2018 thing. I would think it'd be kind of similar, where Paxton would still win by like 3%. But hey, that's just preliminary. He could lose by a couple of points. It's possible. He could win by 6 points. He could. But yeah, it takes a lot for me to think an incumbent would go down in this situation. I mean, there's just, again, a lot of people dig into their own sides. Republicans are going to laugh off Tallarico. They're not going to show any weakness. Of course, this is a red state. And Dems are going to say, well, no, Trump is totally unpopular. Everything's unaffordable. This state is changing. They could do this. This is the year to do it. It's gonna flip. So the truth, I think, is in the middle, and that it's going to be a bit of an edge for the Republicans, but not enough to where it's a guarantee. you seen the presidential rankings going around Twitter? I don't think so. What what's that about? Is that a big thing or some small thing? Rando, hey, you made it in here pretty much after all the action, if there even was any action. The biggest thing here is the margin for Paxton. I guess there are some state legislature runoffs too. It could be interesting if you want to go super down ballot. Yeah, pretty much everything's called here. Let's take a look at any updates. 5 of them. Okay, here we go. We were just talking about ratings. Cook Political Report shifted its rating from likely Republican to lean Republican. I think that happened also with somebody else, Larry Sabato. But yeah, likely down to leans, that's fair. But yeah, going beyond leans, that's too much. If there is a toss up rating. I don't know if they do pure toss ups, but if it's from lean Republican to lean Dem, oh yeah, there's no way I could go lean Dem. If those are the only options, because I don't think they do tilts either. Okay, shortly after the race was called, James Talrico's campaign released the first video of the general election, with Talarico speaking directly to the camera, describing Ken Paxton as the most corrupt politician in America. Talarico said mega donors and their puppet politicians like Ken Paxton have stolen from us. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the ad, obviously, if it just came out, but those are kind of generic things that voters generally eat up, talking about corruption or career politicians or dark money. All right, 2/3 of the vote is in. Uh, let's see. All right, a little bit of different takes here, some spiciness. 68% in, and I think still waiting on this 33rd here. Kind of stagnated. And the 35th. We'll see if they correct this tabulation error here in this county. But yeah, I assume we'll at least do 10, 11 more minutes, do a full 2 hours, and we'll see if we need to go 10 more minutes or if, we're kind of done here. But uh, Texas seems red as it was 20 years ago. Well, I mean, the Bush years, of course, for president, it was not even remotely competitive if we're going to that era. But I mean, yeah, there was a time where it was closer. Certainly in the 90s, and then it went way red, and then it's come back a little bit, but not all the way. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting race here. Of course, the map would be totally different if Harris were in the White House. If Harris were in there, then this would be everything could be different. Everything could be different. So it's hard to really rate it, given I think the dynamics and the candidates could be totally different. But Republicans probably would have a decent year down ballot. Uh, okay. Anybody else lurking have anything constructive to say here? Anybody? What races are you taking a look at for November? What's under the radar? Is it Montana? Is it maybe Florida? Maybe that Michigan race. That's not really under the radar, but that thing could be heating up. I did do a video on the top five upcoming Senate primaries, and Michigan was on the list. We'll say a lot of dynamics happening there. Maybe it's New Hampshire. How about that race? That race I don't think is getting much attention because you've got technically two former U.S. senators battling it out on the Republican side, John Sununu and Scott Brown, and it looks like Brown is going to lose, but they're battling it out to go up against Chris Pappas. And if Harris were in the White House, that seat could be flipping red. But now it looks like probably not. But that's kind of like the inverse of Texas. There, Republicans say no, they could flip that seat. Sununu, he could do it, and Dems are laughing it off. Like, what are you talking about? You know, this is New Hampshire in a blue leaning midterm, right? And yeah, Dems totally favored in New Hampshire, and Republicans, I think, still favored here in Texas. Again, I don't know what kind of polls you're going to see. Polls could be, they could easily be showing super competitive stuff. We've already seen it. I don't know if you're going to really see Paxton leading in a ton of these by a wide margin. But yeah, it could. It. I think people are Republicans are hoping that Paxton, his baggage just doesn't have any staying power. Just glides right off, kind of like Trump. Not under the radar. Well, outside the, I mean, not under the radar. The main ones: North Carolina, Texas, Georgia, Michigan. I guess is that's above the radar, and Maine. I think those are well, also Ohio, I guess, and Iowa's debatable. But like like super any dark horse under the radar action. Anything gonna happen in Kentucky or Massachusetts? Montana, yeah, that one, that, yeah, some of these red states there could be independents, third party independents that are making it complicated, make it closer if there's no Democrat in the race. Probably a good idea for the Dems to do that, and Republicans probably should put up independents in blue states. That should at least make it a little bit more competitive. It's not going to close a 15-point gap. But I wonder if, like, what would Larry Hogan have done last time if he ran as an independent and there was no actual Republican on the ballot? Then I would assume he'd get it down to single digits, but he'd probably still lose. But it could be a 6, 7 point race instead of whatever he lost by, about 12 or 13, something like that. New York Congress primaries would be under the radar. Uh, yeah, there's a lot of races there, and especially with the maps. And that New York map has changed several times over the past like 6 years. But yeah, there's some races there. I can't even keep track of it all. Okay, 6, 7. Yeah, that's the margin. Excuse me. I think maybe Hogan could have got it down to if he ran as an independent. It is and a great night for Hogan in that Senate race. Just like Dan Osborne, I think he him going independent, it gets him closer, 5 points probably. But how getting another five or more, that's a little bit much. So we're closing in on 2 hours here. And I'm not sure how long we're going to go. We'll go at least a few more minutes, but let's see what we've got. We've got nine people in here. Well, I think everybody thinks it's pretty much over. Okay. Political compass test. Yeah, let's take that if you're interested. I think those questions are always they're most of them are difficult for me to answer. Okay, everything. Nope, still waiting on this. I don't know how it's at 100% unless it's already called. But everything's pretty much over. And Cornyn is leading a couple of counties. Oh, they fixed it here. There it is. They corrected this tabulation error. Not sure how that even happens, but it could be another one here in Kennedy County. Yeah, the 6 hours of this stream. Not sure how much we'd even do on election day. Well, last time I think we did 8 or 9 hours because that was that was everything. I don't know why they haven't called it. I don't even have it up here, but not sure. So yeah, interesting map here. As Chip Roy did better in South Texas. But pretty overwhelming outside of South Texas. Even in El Paso, that went for Middleton. Okay, let's see. Let's get some updates. One update. Let's hope it's a good one. In his concession speech, Cornyn reminded supporters that and he has time left in the Senate, though Republican leaders don't expect him to suddenly become a maverick. Over the next 7 months of my service in the U.S. Senate, I can intend to continue my work to help make this nation a better place for all Texans and all Americans, he said. Okay. Well, yeah, that's hey, if you're Cornyn, not a bad career at all, right? Four terms in the Senate from one of the most significant states. That's that's a success, even though it ended on a failure for him. Uh, no, this hasn't been called here. This railroad commissioner race, at least, yeah, here. Oh, look at that, 502 to 502, exactly the same. That's good stuff. It's an interesting map. I mean, clearly the incumbent has won many more counties or is leading in many more of them, but Beau French running it up around Harris County and around Dallas. Right, so still vote to count, but I don't think it's going to be consequential. Still, I don't think this percent has budged in a long time. 64%. One more update. What is it? In the Republican race to replace outgoing Attorney General Ken Paxton, Mays Middleton, a state senator, has a 12-point lead over Representative Chip Roy, with nearly 60% of the vote in. That is after Middleton, an oil executive, contributed more than 17 million of his own money to his campaign. I did hear he did do a lot of self-funding. I guess that tells you right there. 17 mil. To counter that spending, Alex Fairley, a Texas businessman, donated more than 6 million to Roy. I think that's why people hate politics right there. It's just one guy is donating 6 million or 17 million. Most people can't donate $50. 6 million is just like, is that just couch money for these people? Okay. Rockwall County, the Texas Railroad Commissioner GOP runoff. Incumbent Jim Wright running about 8 points stronger than in the early vote so far. Okay. Not even sure where that is. Hapo French is leading. His answer was both to a question which was a threat to America. His choices were being Muslims and or Jews. Okay. Uh, hey, everybody's making friends in the chat, right? Everybody's gonna meet up at some point and talk about how much they love this channel, right? That's what everybody can agree on. Let's see. I don't think anything's really going to change here for the market. I don't think any new polls have dropped. I mean, we've got South Carolina that's coming up in a couple weeks. That's a pretty intense race there for governor. And I mean, look at this. You've got five candidates with 15% or more. That's insane. That's on the Trafalgar poll. And then you've got five of them with 10 points or more. That's wild stuff. You got a Rasmussen poll here. Trump at 43% approval. And they've got the Dems up six on the generic ballot. Here's a Qantas poll with this runoff. Paxton only up 10. That was, I mean, that's correct, but not really. That margin way higher. Here we go. Look at this. SoCal Strategies coming in with a Paxton plus 22. I didn't even see this poll. Got some runoffs for Georgia coming up. Those are going to be some big races. Louisiana, Iowa, Josh Turek up by 21. And then it'll shift to the general election. So let everybody get into the summer before we start thinking about general election polling. Some primaries aren't even coming up for a couple of months. South Dakota, this governor primary, this is wild too. You've got four candidates of 16 points. So some good stuff coming up technically. Um, they might not be the juiciest races overall, but some of these primary battles, a couple of interesting races under the radar. I finally got a little more here in this 33rd district. So yeah, Bo French doing pretty well here around Harris and Dallas, but not in many other places. All right, let's see. What have I missed? Have I missed everybody becoming friends? Uh, team picnic for loyal supporters. Well, hey, yeah, biggest donation, biggest super chat, assuming there's at least a certain amount. Then yeah, we could do other things. Yeah, I get. I wonder if you go to other channels. I don't know if other people are going to get the abbreviations, right? I think this is just too low time of a channel for other channels to know what people are talking about. Or I don't know, maybe some people here go to multiple channels. They talk it up in two or three of them. Um, Colin all read political career over. Not according to this. According to this, he's absolutely going into the U.S. House back where he was. It's nice to get some different views going in the chat. As long as it's fairly civil, then hey. Wesley Hunt, same position as Paxton, like Trump endorsed. How do you think he'd perform? I well, I think I thought he was actually probably the best pick. This is like 6 months ago, maybe even longer. I thought Hunt probably a guy that would bridge both divides, both camps. I mean, that was just my guess. I think he could get enough of the corner voters and he could get enough of the Paxton voters because he's somebody different. He's younger. He's got more energy than Cornyn, and he's somebody different. Voters are looking for something spicier, spice it, shake it up, and he did. And then he got in third place, but I think that he would have been better. He clearly doesn't have all that baggage that Paxton has, and plus he's not Cornyn because Cornyn is kind of struggling with the base. So I think Hunt would have been better than Paxton, but we'll never know. Wow, this is the exact same percentage in the 33rd and the 35th. 54.8 to 45.2. Got to enjoy it while you can because that's going to change. The general election, well, I was just talking about that maybe 15, 20 minutes ago, but I would say that Cook Political Report just took their rating from likely down to leans. I think Larry Sabato did that last week or something, and I agree. I would have it at lean Republican. That's it. I mean, it's kind of an easy call. I think it's just it's going to be to get over that hump for the Dems. That's going to be something else. It would take a lot of consistent momentum, and it's not going to be something I'm going to see right away. To take a look at it over the next few months, but I would think still it's going to be Paxton's race to lose, and he could lose. He could, but I mean, if I had to bet $1 on it right now in the November, oh, I would have to say I guess I'd go for Paxton that he would win, even if it's by one vote. If I had to, but who's going to make that kind of a prediction many months out? Okay, Mays Middleton, a conservative state senator who painted his opponent as anti-Trump, won the Republican runoff on Tuesday for Attorney General of Texas. Mr. Middleton beat Chip Roy, a hardline congressman who was at times broken with President Trump in a race that underscored the president's power with conservative voters. Mr. Trump did not endorse either man, both of whom ran staunchly on conservative policies. I'm not sure which name you're talking about that didn't make the cut. Um, Here's a close race. State Board of Education, District 7. Okay, all kinds of down ballot races here. And yeah, this layout here Decision Desk, Vote Hub, whatever it's called. Yeah, this is not bad. It has the markets, it has the local stuff right here, the counties. It has a lot of good stuff on the sides too. And you can quickly take a look at margins or swings if it's in the general. That's pretty good. But New York Times is still pretty good too. But trying to change it up a little bit because I know this is kind of a new format here, and it's not bad. Corin would have got the Trump nod if his name was not as cool as Paxton. Is that's name is better? Middleton asked a question that sounded prejudiced. Is Wu back in China referencing Democratic Texas State Rep Gene Wu? Okay. Yeah, I haven't really looked into that race at all. We'll see if, I mean, it's not one of the top races, but it is important. We'll see. Maybe I'll look into that at some point. Okay, let's see. What are we at here? So I think we're probably going to wind this down because this is really all pretty much over with. And it's nice to sit here, but with only 12 people, there's a point where you got to other things you could do with your time, and this is the time, unless the super chats are going to pour in, for me to kind of call it. So the quick recap here is, yeah, Paxton, he's going to face Rico. He defeats Cornyn, and all the other action. I'll probably do a summary video on it, but it's not really much to say here. Al Green is done. Looks like Colin Allred is, according to the market's going to win. And Carlos De La Cruz is probably, he's got that one, I guess, wrapped up. But the big story here is incumbent Cornyn is done. A winner for the Dem runoff in the 33rd has not been called, but with a lead in the race, Colin Allred has entered the Union Hall. His watch party. Okay, he's looking good there. Well, we got up to 74% of the vote. Yeah, you'll have to exchange phone numbers or whatever, Snapchats or however you want to keep in touch. Or you'll have to just save it for the next one. Uh, anyway, I mean, there's really nothing left here. It's kind of it's kind of quiet, and all the results are in. This is it. There's nothing left. So I think we're going to be winding it down. Again, next week is action in California and some other states. I'm going to try to do a stream. I can't guarantee it's going to happen, but I'd like to do that stream. And then I don't know about after that. I might miss a couple of weeks. But think next week it's going to be some good action, at least in California. That's going to be kind of probably better than this, just that race. We'll have to see if possibly Republicans get shut out of that race. And what's going to happen there? Is Becerra going to be the guy? Is Tom Steyer going to have some hidden vote? Well, we'll find out in about 7 days as we go up to 15 people. Well, anybody that just showed up, glad to have you here at the end. If you want to jump in, you've got perfect opportunity to ask a relevant question or make a relevant comment. But we're gonna end this stream here at about 2 hours 21 minutes. Another success. Well, it's good to hear that we're not tolerating any prejudice or bigotry toward any group. Full stop. And on that note, that is going to wind this stream down here. I appreciate everybody stopping by for this Texas Runoff 2026. We'll see Paxton in the general election against Talarico. And other than that, we're going to call the stream here. I hope everybody has a great night. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And have a great night.